Okay, so we are about to start. Thank you again for joining us today at a webinar. So today's webinar is about your next observability RFP is all wrong, why AI changes everything. Before we're digging in, I would like to introduce you to Asaf Yigal, our CTO here at Logz.io, and Tomer Levy, our CEO at Logz.io. But before that, we would like to do some housekeeping rules. Okay, so the webinar is recorded. You will receive the recording by email by tomorrow. You can watch there here, and the recording after the session, you will receive the recording also. You can ask any questions. Feel free to ask any questions that you are willing to. We will do our best to answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. And that's it. Asaf and Tomer, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Adi, and thank you everyone for joining the webinar. This is extremely exciting opportunity to chat with, at least virtually, with a lot of people. Asaf and I were kind of joking that we're having the same conversation over and over with prospects coming and knocking at the door with different partners and different customers. And, you know, when we finish the conversation with them, I think a lot of them are scratching their heads and say, hey, am I actually looking at things in the right way? And, you know, AI is coming, but what does it actually mean? So we wanted to have a session, you know, it's pretty short. Asaf and I are going to take some of the most common questions we're being asked, and we ask kind of innovative customers that are ahead of the curve, engineering leaders, CTOs, and kind of hearing what they tell us. And I would really love for more people to hear how the cutting edge, how the innovators think about observability in the future. So we're going to talk a little bit about the state of observability. We're going to go through a couple of like most common questions, and especially when it comes to the next RFP, RFQ, you're looking to modernize. You need to do something. And what do many people do, and what do innovators do? And I would like to talk a little bit about that. And then Asaf is going to show a demo that's going to be pretty cool on the approach we took at Logz.io into AI. It's a new release called Open 360 AI. So we'll see that live. And then looking forward to seeing some questions from the audience toward the end. So really exciting session, and looking forward to kind of engaging with everyone right now and after the session. Asaf, do you want to give your perspective? I know you talked to a lot of prospects.
Yes, thank you very much. So definitely I talked to a lot of prospects and also a lot of customers. And I think one of the things that we've seen over the past 10 years that we've been at it is that software development and deployment into production got very, very complex. And we've seen it over the year with all the cloud technology, new services being developed by AWS and other cloud providers, Kubernetes, containers, serverless, and all this cool technology, which really enables organization to move quickly, which is great for development organization, but it makes it very difficult for the operation side of the house to actually monitor and troubleshoot in real time. Adding into it all of the development that's being done over the past year or two using Gen AI tools, I think we're reaching a point where in the next few years, there's going to be very few lines of code, new lines of code that have actually been written by human being. So that means that when there is going to be an issue, no one can look at the code and said, hey, I wrote this, I know exactly what's going on. We can all agree on, I think, one thing: observability solutions today do not solve the problem at hand. They do not provide a good solution for monitoring and observing application in real time that are happening and issues that are happening. And I think it's really time for a change. And the way we see it is AI is definitely going to do this change.
Yeah, Asaf, I know how, one of the conversations we had recently with a customer that told us, listen, I haven't anticipated that for us a pretty I would say substantial organization will have so much code going into production, new apps coming up, where developers actually use the cursor, the different tools to write a lot of this code, and this code was never read by a human. So I really have to have good monitoring so I can roll back, I can troubleshoot. I think the thought that in a year or 2 or 3 or 4, code will be, not just developers are still going to be here, but I think in a different role, of more supervising, driving a lot of the algorithms, driving a lot of the core functionality, but AI will write the more mundane code. To think that in a year or 2 or 3, you'll have still people pointing the mouse at the dashboard, clicking and pointing and clicking and zooming in over and over on long bridge calls at 2 a.m., and they're going to be able to troubleshoot what AI wrote. There's just a huge collision coming, and we see it with the cutting edge customers. And I think when you look at Logz.io, just to give a little bit of background, who we are. So Logz.io is a little bit more than 10 years old. We have more than 1,000 customers. We started as a log management, hence the name Logz.io. But pretty quickly we expanded into a full observability platform, full stack, end-to-end logs, metrics, traces. We call it Open 360. And then the last year and a half has been pretty transformational for us. We took a pretty, I would say, tough decision, or maybe an easy decision, which was we're going to make a big investment in generative AI, in an AI agents to be the most important tenant in an observability platform, and to rethink observability from that point of, hey, I'm an AI agent. What information do I need? What data? How do I advise the engineer? How do I bring some value? How do I start to automate? So that's Logz.io in a nutshell. So Asaf, maybe moving back to you. I know everybody's talking about AI. You and I talk about AI. How much of it do you think is a buzz and like a cool thing to do versus real value that can be driven there?
My personal perspective is this is a real paradigm change, and we've seen Gen AI in other aspects of our life. Everything that has to do with company, everything has to do with writing code, like you mentioned, everything has to do with deploying to production. It really created a paradigm change in these domains, and I think it's going to create a paradigm change here in kind of like observability. It will take time to mature, like any new technology, but I think the pace of advancement around new AI kind of like outpaces any other development that's being done today. We can see it with the amount of money being invested in AI companies these days. So that's kind of like what we see. Tomer, so we've seen a lot of new feature being added to observability recently in the past few years. What do you think is different this time?
Yeah, you and I have been in observability, in monitoring, the way it used to be called before, for many years. And there have been generations of companies promising anomaly detection and automatic root cause analysis, and most of them were not successful. And I think we always look at this and say, hey, is this for real? Can you create, what we like to call autonomous observability? Is this a feature or a real transformation? I truly believe it's a real transformation. And I think the biggest gap was that, these IT environments are so complicated. When you try to find an anomaly here, there's something here breaks. So there's so much false alarms, and it's very hard to understand this complexity. The only creature who is able to understand this complexity is a human. Until now, a group of engineers going on a 2 a.m. bridge, and they know how this is organized, and they have their brains. And for the first time, we have this brain now that is part of process. And when we think about it, not like a feature, like can AI find X? Can AI do a dashboard? But when we think about it like another engineer going and joining a call, then I think we're going to start to see progress. And again, these are the early days. There's still a lot of maturity to go through. But I've never been so excited about what's ahead of us. I think this entire ecosystem and market are going to transform completely. A lot of the things that our customers were looking for. Hey, I want this workflow. I want this dashboard. I want to drill down from here and there, and I want to have this better query that does A, B, and C. Yeah, it's all good and important, but this will diminish in importance over time. and the power of AI agents to be one, and many AI agents are going to increase. And Asaf, how do you see the observability market, the ecosystem changing with AI? I know there's a lot of guessing going around, and no one really knows. But I think you have a very interesting perspective here.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, the biggest thing is about reducing the mean time to resolution. And I think, like you mentioned, it's like having another person. So I've heard a podcast recently that mentioned that Gen AI is going to be smarter than any human being living by the end of 2026. So that means it's just having another person, smart person in the room that can look at dashboard, that can understand what's going on, that can read the code, that is going to be probably smarter than any developer in the organization and any DevOps person. So the main reason for observability is troubleshooting. So how quickly can I find the problem that I have in my environment? This is the reason observability exists. And this is the impact that Gen AI is going to have. When you also talk about this, it's also going to simplify, obviously, troubleshooting, but it's also going to reduce the cost. And the reason it's going to reduce the cost, because today organizations save a lot of data that they don't need in a very expensive data storage. With the Gen AI doing it and already running the root cause analysis, by the time you get the alert, you're already going to have the kind of like the analysis with you. You don't need to store the data for 7 days, for 14 days, for 30 days, like some of our customers store it in an expensive storage data storage. So reducing the time to resolution, making troubleshooting a lot easier, reducing the expertise needing for troubleshooting, and reducing the cost. This is kind of like how I see the impact in this market. So Tomer, what can AI actually do for engineering teams?
Yeah, I think as we kind of peel the onion and go from, yeah, AI is going to have a big impact. And I think everyone is nodding probably and say, yeah, it's going to have a big impact. But, you know, as engineers, myself and you as well, and our customers, they're like skeptic. Yeah, you know, it's a hype sometimes. Let's see how it goes. I haven't really found the use case beyond ChatGPT is pretty cool, and I use it a lot. But in my day-to-day, you know, and I think they're right in a lot of cases. It's these tools are still maturing up. They still have a journey to go to. But I've seen the customers that have elected to join the journey and what they can achieve. And I think the biggest part is the expectations. When customers set realistic expectations, understanding that this is a journey, and the way we think about it is our vision is autonomous observability. We want it to be autonomous, completely autonomous, but we know it's going to take time. It's not going to be tomorrow morning. A little bit like, you know, autonomous cars. Like 10 years ago, this was, hey, tomorrow everyone is going to drive in sit in an autonomous car. But we're 10 years later, and yes, there's way more. There's some cool things. There's FSD, but there's still a journey to go. And I think when you actually ask, what can you do today with it? So I think the most common one is to start from the bottom. Can AI build a dashboard for you? Can AI do some root cause analysis? And it doesn't mean AI is always going to be correct. The same way you don't expect your engineer to always be correct. Maybe you need 2 engineers or 3 on a bridge to find the root cause. Can AI do some of the mundane work? Like if you think about alerts and stuff work to be done, there's like 80%, which is mundane. Oh, it's another time that I need some extra resources. It's some contention here in this area. I have some too many error 500s. I think if I'm an organization, I'm saying, what can I use AI in my observability? I would find the lowest hanging fruit. AI to solve your most complex production failure. Forget about it for now. Let's do it in a year or two, whenever you're ready and AI is ready. I think for now, it's the most common one, performance management. We've seen our customers use it for FinOps. Hey, find these pods that are not doing anything, run it every so-and-so, and just tell me about these pods. We've seen AI being used heavily for security. It's very interesting what customers do because they do all these questions and interact. It's basically a new way to interact. And I go back to the analogy of autonomous car. I think we're in the cruise control phase right now. It's not going to take you through the streets of LA tomorrow morning. But I think if you're driving on the highway and you want some good cruise control, at least our AI at Logz.io is there, is ready for really, really good cruise control. So you can take your hands off the wheel, you can do some other things, you can listen to music, and AI is going to help you. I think as we go into kind of the next level of, going inside a city as an analogy, I think we see and we're kind of building that, next level. There's a big release we're doing that is much deeper in multiple agents running, and I'm very excited to see that coming. But I would say these are the most common use cases that I see right now. Maybe Asaf, I wrote down a question I wanted to ask you, and kind of when you talk to prospects and they come, or customers, and they say, hey, I want a new observability platform, I have some gaps, and a lot of them literally don't have AI on the list. It's not no, listen, Asaf, I need logs, and I need my metrics, and I want my traces, and I want them in one screen, and I want to be able to use Autel or whatever the requirement is. And how do you address that? What do you talk to them about? What are they missing?
Yeah, I think one of the things, you're right. People, when they come to us, they usually say, I have an observability solution. It doesn't solve the problem that I have, and it's too expensive. So show me how you can get the same observability with lower cost. It's going to help me solve. And one of the things we work with them is, first of all, understanding how is their troubleshooting process doing today? What tools are they using other than observability? Kind of, do they have an incident managers? Do they record it? Do they know how to keep their MTTR? And then we kind of like challenge them on a new way of thinking. And it's not always easy, but once they see it in action, once they see how the AI is troubleshooting their environment, they're surprised actually. And I have to tell you personally, I was surprised the first time I saw it when we launched it about a year ago. Kind of like the level of innovation and the level of accuracy, I was sure it's not going to be close. And like you mentioned, it's not already there, but I think it's definitely first of all progressing really, really fast, and it's definitely way beyond my expectation and way beyond the customer expectation. I think same way that people usually don't buy a car because they don't buy a car for an autonomous driven car today. In the future, it's going to change, and people would want to have autonomous cars. But right now, it's something that they didn't ask for. I think once you start using it, same way that you use Cursor today or use any other IDE which is driven by Gen AI, you get addicted. So once you get addicted to it, and you don't know how was your life before you had it, this is what we see our customers that have adopted the Gen AI for troubleshooting, and this is what we work with prospect and trying to get them through that. So this is kind of like what we see. And I have a question. So you work with a lot of prospects and customers, and we're getting a lot of RFPs. What are like the common mistakes that people are doing when defining the requirement for an observability solution?
Yeah, I think just basically to add on what you said, they're like, yeah, I want to have AI. Of course, I'd like to see it. It's a nice to have, and everyone has AI, and I think people haven't set the KPI they want, and I think they're even afraid to put this in writing because maybe someone will expect them to do it. But I would put a KPI that says how many of my alerts, the trigger, can be automated through AI completely end to end, and I would start with modest expectation. Hey, can I automate 20% of all the alerts that trigger and have AI do a full automation of that inspection, high level of confidence, close it, do the change, roll back, do whatever needs to scale up, do whatever needs to happen. So I think once you have the courage, and I see customers that do have the courage, they say, hey, I'd like to start in year one by taking 20% of my alerts and automating them. And I want AI to do it. 10% of my alerts, 30%. That just opens up people's minds and say, oh, how do I do that? What do I need? How it's going to work? Is AI good enough? And then when they actually test AI, and I know everyone has a different perspective on AI. Honestly, in most products I see, just even outside observability, someone basically took an LLM, they duct tape it to the UI. On the right side you have a chat, and it's an LLM. You can ask a question and answer an answer it's a hit or miss. in my view, that's not an AI, because that's not going to satisfy the requirement you had for automation. So I would say that's the number one mistake I see. People are kind of afraid. They're looking in the rear mirror and say, oh, I want to have my tools consolidated. I want to save costs and stuff. 100% cost is a huge pain point. And I think AI can be extremely helpful, not just because AI is very accurate in what it needs, but it can also be used specifically to the task of help me find data I don't need, help me find noise, help me reduce my workload and the data I need to ingest. And I think it goes back to expectations, and I see maybe the last part here that people say, hey, you know what? It's not perfect. AI is not perfect. It makes mistakes. And for us as engineers, it's really hard to comprehend something that is non-deterministic. Like, yeah, it's usually going to give you good advice, but sometimes it's going to be wrong. And our AI is sometimes wrong. It's not, doesn't have all the information. It makes mistakes. So how do you advise customers? How do you see that the paradigm shift from a perfect AI into getting the mindset that this is a recommendation tool, this is something that's going to help you get there, but it's not 100% accurate, at least not today.
Right, it's not accurate. Plus, the model works in a way that is not predictive. So, as opposed to what we're used to, software, and we've all been taught about it in school and where we studied that you write software and every time it's going to give you the same answer. We all know from the interaction with Gen AI, it doesn't always give you the right answer, and I think there is a lot of value to that. So I think we're starting as users of software, trying to get used to using software that is non-predictable all the time. The other thing which we're seeing is the fast improvement of Gen AI. We see it almost every week. There is a new application that helps you do like a million things with AI. You're creating in personal life, you're creating videos, you're creating presentation, you're writing code, you're writing the requirements. It's really kind of like advancing in a really fast way. And I think this is encouraging, and it kind of like balances off a little bit of the imperfection. We've taken a lot of steps to making sure that the data and the results are as accurate as possible. And I think one of the things that we do see is that people are used to it and they understand that the interaction with Gen AI is a different interaction than what we used to do when we were searching, when we were querying. It's just a different interaction, and it's a lot deeper and richer. But definitely is something that people get used to it.
Absolutely. And Asaf, I know we wanted to show a demo bit to see how, at least the approach we took. So while you set up the demo and get everything ready, I would just say, and I don't know if you plan to show it or not, but the way to get accuracy is not just to think about the AI as a black box, but to think about the AI as an engineer you onboard your team. You give them the playbooks, you train them, you teach them what to do in your organization. And we've seen how that has a tremendous impact on results. So without further ado, Asaf, do you want to show us a little bit of the Logz.io approach?
Yes, I will show the Logz.io approach, and I'm going to do a very quick demo. At the end of this webinar, we're going to have kind of like the ability to scan a QR code and schedule a very deep and detailed demo with us. So obviously, if this is not going to be enough, then we'd be happy to help. So I'm just going to go through, obviously, Logz.io is a full-blown observability solution, hundreds of ways to connect and get the data through. All of this is being done and developed automatically. You can see here I have the topology view, which is constructed automatically for the traces and the metrics that we consume. And I can drill down on each one of the services and see what's going on. Obviously, correlating logs, metrics, and traces, all of them in one place. I can do the old way of saying, hey, like this is a service. I can go through the graphs, understand what's going on, read the logs, read the metrics and stuff like that. Or I can open up the AI agent, and we already pre-made a bunch of questions here, but you can ask whatever you want. So you can ask any question, but for example, I can ask, is my service stable post-deployment? That's the only question that we ask. So the Gen AI already understands what is a deployment, how does it look in my environment, and everything that's going on. And this is kind of like the analysis that that I got. Latency spiked, dramatic fluctuation from stable to peaks, different throughput and stuff like that that is happening. So it also recommend kind of like what are the next step, and I can continue with it. I can continue investigate the deployment changes. I can check dependency services, and I can do whatever I want. I just need to ask it the same way that you would use GenAI today. I need to ask you, do you want me to continue? Do you want me to investigate it? This is something that we can ask and we can drill down on into it and understand what's going on. So this is kind of like one way of using Gen AI. I want to show a couple of other things that we've developed. So obviously, logging is the most difficult thing to understand and grasp within observability solution. It's just millions and millions of logs. So we have two components here. One of them is the exception, which is automatically detected, also using AI to understand what are the exception. And we have the ability to run root cause analysis. So once you run the root cause analysis, the only question that he asks the AI, show me the root cause analysis of this exception. And this is an agentic approach, which means that what we do is we set it off to ask whatever question you want and try to come up with a solution. So he's trying to understand all the steps. What is this error? Which service it happens? Then it's looking at deployments of different things that are happening. These are all the steps that are being done. And then understanding the deployments. He found the deployment of the recommendation service in the environment. And you can see it took less than a minute to come back with a recommendation on what to do. Roll back the recommendation service deployment to previous stable version, investigate what's going on. This exception did not happen on the recommendation service. This exception happened on the front-end service. So we see it more common than not. Then you find the error in one place, but it actually started somewhere else. Now, the AI is smart enough to understand everything that's going on in the environment and understand the correlation between different services. It uses all the capabilities and coming up with a recommendation of what to do. Even if this was not the right analysis for you, you can see the step that it took. You can see the deployments that happen. You can see the services that are being deployed. And it gives you like a much, much better starting point that you would start with nothing. So taking all of this is nice. I can manually run it for every exception, but I don't want to manually run thing. I want to create it on the alerts. So on the alerts themselves, using Logz.io, you can see that, let me open up like one alert, for example, and you can see that we've added on the alerts, like any other alert, we've added the AI agent analysis, which is an automated analysis which being run every time this alert triggers. There is two capabilities that are here. One of them is you can ask it to activate on every AI agent that is run. The second thing you can do is you can actually give it instructions. So you can actually have it read directly from your playbook and write in plain English, how would a support engineer or someone who's maintaining your environment understand? So here, if what happens here, if I run this on the alerts that are being triggered, basically what the AI agent does is going to mimic my playbook, is going to just take step by step instead of using our own way of investigation. Is gonna take step by step and understand it and figure out what is going on. And you can see here is just like doing everything that's happening here, including kind of like log samples and stuff like that, deployments that are happening. These are the instructions that I gave it to do. You can see I found this event. The other thing which is it's also going and looking at GitHub. So it's also going deep and understanding what are the changes that I've done in the code. So all the way from the alert being triggered down to the code change that are happening. And this is kind of like what it's doing. And you can see all the steps that it's taken in order to reach that conclusion. So this is, we'll give it like another minute or two to understand what's going on and kind of like all the steps that he's taking. in order to understand it. But this is kind of like how the Gen AI is operating and working in the environment. And you can see here the results. So there is a commit URL that I can copy and I can see what's going on. There is a root cause analysis of what happened in the environment, and what is kind of like defining here. And this is based on my kind of like steps on my playbook that I basically wanted the AI to run on. So these are just the kind of like the beginning of how we're looking at Gen AI integrating within observability. There is a lot more to come. There is a very native integration and a partnership that we've done with PagerDuty to also look at past incident and understand the root cause analysis and troubleshooting for past incidents. And this is something that we're really proud of. And this is, like I said, just the beginning when it comes to getting Gen AI involved within the observability.
This is awesome, Asaf. I get excited just seeing that. We're part of we're part of a journey that we're working with our customers on how do you take it to that next levels, and there's so much more coming in the next couple of weeks, and basically every week there's a major change in how we do it, the accuracy, the data it can ingest, etc. I go back to the practical things. Okay, so what can I actually do with it? Okay, root cause analysis you've shown. This is a dashboard. Basically, understanding as a customer, the different alerts, the work being done. The work being done can be just, hey, the AI just looked at 25 different sources, correlated data, provided me with information, so my job will be easier. Can AI automate scale-up override? You can see here on the bottom. Deployment. Let's say I'm doing deployments, and we have internally at Logz.io more than 100 deployments every day. Do they have any impact on performance, on availability? Usually, obviously they're fine, but do you actually know? So you can put an alert to say, hey, every time there's a deployment, I want AI to scan like a bunch of things and do some analysis and tell me it's actually working well. I can put an engineer to do it, but obviously it's not possible for a human to do it. So it opens so many opportunities to start automating things, to start getting work done by an AI agent. And I think this, you can see a couple of kind of examples, but there's so many opportunities here. We're running out of time, Asaf. I want to pause for a second. You wanted to say something, sorry?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the kind of like the purpose of this webinar was around the RFP. So do you think Gen AI should be a part of the RFP? And if so, how should the organization define kind of like their AI requirements when it comes to observability?
Yeah. I saw that question coming from the chat, and I would make sure this is front and center. Do you have to check your vendors to have ingesting logs and metrics and traces and have the basics? 100%. Do all of that. But I would really challenge the vendors you're considering, or whether it's internally with your team in open source, whatever you choose, to put KPIs of automation, of reducing workload, of accelerating time to resolution, accelerating time to detection. Put very modest KPIs and have your team prove to you that you're pacing in the right direction. By the time you're done implementing, selecting the next vendor, onboarding the next solution, and 6 months from that point, I believe things are going to be completely different. So you have to build for the future, and I think that's such an important thing that I see already. RFPs coming. Hey, show me how you do, automate this. Show me how you do root cause analysis. Prove to me that you can do this and that. And I think that's what very innovative companies do. I see here another question here, Asaf, on the channel. Someone asked, how should we rethink logs and metrics and traces collection strategies with AI? Do you want to take it?
Yes, absolutely. So I think obviously, like you mentioned, we have to collect the data. So the AI relies on us collecting the data. I think the good news is we probably don't have to collect all the data. because with kind of like everything that's going on with AI and MCP servers and companies having access to their data remotely, you can say, okay, I'm going to get the core amount of data that I need around observability, so traces, metrics, logs, and stuff like that. If I do need additional information, like I do need to go to the deployments, I do need to go to GitHub, I do need to go into AWS and check configuration, I do need to log into my Kubernetes cluster and download the YAML file that was defined. I do want to look at my Puppet or Chef or Ansible recent script that was running. We can all do this without collecting the information, but I think it's a basic requirement we need to collect the data in order for the AI to make sense of it. And the more access you give it, the better the solution it is. So you give it access to your Slack, so it can go through past incident, understand what's going on. You give it access to your incident management, whether it's PagerDuty, Jira, whatever you're using for incident management, you give it access and you can get a lot more information and a lot better accuracy in this.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think we've been used to logs and then metrics and traces, and now people, oh yeah, of course we have to have all of it. I think what we're going to see in the future is there'll be so many data sources, new data sources feed into an observability solution, like the one you mentioned, the code, everything around it, to get that agent to have more context. And I think it's super exciting time. So I know Adi's here because we're out of time. I want to thank everyone just for joining. This was a lot of fun, and I'll move it to you, Adi.
Yeah, thank you.
Tomer and Asaf, thank you for such an amazing webinar. It was really interesting. We hope everyone enjoyed and found it as beneficial as we do. Thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you at our next webinar. Have a great rest of the day. And if you are still curious about us, you can scan this QR code and schedule a personal demo with us. Thank you again and have a rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.